Well, I was born and grew up in Peterborough a number of years ago, obviously, and I went to public school, high school here. I left to go to university and spent 8 years at university, including my period of articles when I graduated from law school. So I was at Western University for that time. After graduating from law school, I was invited to article with a firm in Toronto, which I did, and went back and practiced there for a couple of years, and then decided that, having come from a smaller community, maybe life in the big city wasn't for me. My wife and I, we had just had our second child at that time, and an opportunity came up for me to practice in Peterborough with a lawyer whose practice was, he was retiring, and I was to assist with his succession. So we came back to Peterborough, bought a home. We've been here ever since. So except for the 10 years away at school and practicing in Toronto, it's always been here in Peterborough. I have 3 children. I have a couple of grandchildren now, which is the joy of our life. We very much enjoy that, and I still very much enjoy my work practice. So continue to do that. Had a broad number of experiences over my years of working in that, in the volunteer sector, which I have really enjoyed. Yeah, that's sort of the background. Volunteerism was a part of growing up in our family, and I think I owe it to my mother and father for what I'll call introduction to volunteerism. And by the time you get to high school, there's certain organizations that encourage volunteerism and that type of thing. I became involved in a couple of those. My first real experience was in high school. I was a volunteer with what was called the Key Club, and the Key Club was a junior Kiwanis back then, and I eventually, after a couple of years, I became the governor of the Key Clubs of Canada, Eastern Canada. And that was my first real role in maybe volunteer work, but volunteer leadership. And but my mother and father were heavily involved in volunteering through the church. My father was the chair of the Board of Education here. They were the ones, I think, that really instilled in myself and my brothers and sister the value of volunteering and what it would mean both to our family life but also to our own lives and that. So that was the introduction. And then, university, I did some volunteer work at university. When I came back here to practice, that's when I really got, I became more interested in the volunteer work. The value, the real value in the volunteer, I often say it's as much as the recipient of your volunteer efforts benefits. I've often said that the real benefit is to the person who's doing the volunteering. And over the years, I've seen that in so many ways. The relationships that I've built, the people I've met, the experiences I've had working on boards, all with different activities, but so many common elements as well. But you learn through volunteer work, and that's a huge personal benefit, in terms of doing it. So it's very much a double benefited win-win situation in volunteering, and a lot of people don't realize that, and I'm always trying to tell them that it is a win-win.